What's up? It's your boy Karceno here. Supposed to be in Philly right now, but they ain't want to give me the credentials. I guess I was too much of a threat risk, or violence of other people may get hurt in there. So I forget it. I don't care about that. I was making y'all show better. I'm there to promote boxing, not fighting and violence and all that stuff. I was there for the event, but maybe the next time. I'll wrestle. Maybe the next one. Now, with that aside, I made a video before I even saw that Hot 97, that's not even Hot 97, the Breakfast Club thing. And, oh, God, it's such a terrible show. Such a terrible program. Charlemagne is just horrible at what he does. Did you hear him? Did y'all even catch what he did? He's like, and then there's something like, didn't you and Peedi like write something for Beans? Like, come on, man. Come cut the crap. You know doggone well this guy has been on podcast after podcast after podcast talking about how he didn't wrote stuff for Beans. And you want to act like, I think I heard a little something. I think, what's his name? Beans. Like, you don't know who he is. He was just there 2 days ago, you idiot. You think people going to believe that coming out of your mouth? That's what I'm talking about. These dudes are so fake and phony, it's ridiculous. Then they even got Angela Yee in on it. She's like, well, what do you think we could do to, like, stop this? Like, you think it's going to be any problems? The man that told you 1,000 times it's not going to be any problems. It is no problem now. Like, he ain't got to worry about me. What more do you want from that person after they tell you that? You got to keep having him reiterate the same thing he said in the first half hour when you got him talking about this again? And he just keep talking about the same thing over and over. He's going to jump from podcast to podcast to everybody feel sorry for him being stupid. Feel sorry for me. I'm stupid. And then Peedi Crack. He the reason I'm making this video right now. Because I tried to tell this person beforehand, Peedi Crack is the same exact person you just saw. That's Peedi Crack. In his whole timeline thing he was doing, all you heard was Peedi being Peedi. Flipping. Going from one side to the other side, and back to the other side, and run back to the other side. That's Peedi Crack. This is his whole life. Anybody cut him a check, he there. Be like, well, what the numbers look like? That's Peedi Crack. So I'm like, these two working together just shows you these are two haters and two selfish people right by each other. This guy gonna diss him if you cut him the check big enough. It shows you right there. They doing a whole interview basically talking about somebody else. They on there talking about Beans. A situation that's been did. Man, I ran into a promoter and he told me he paid, promoters are the jankiest people in the world. You gonna believe him? How about talking about it with Beans? And Beans probably told you, like, look, that was my money. They paid for me. They didn't pay nothing for y'all. He could tell you he paid all of us, but he ain't paid my fee. Y'all are all not signed to Beanie Siegel. Y'all are all individual artists. It's funny how they remember that when it's something that benefits them, but then when it comes down to a payment, and we're a group. You gotta look out for all of us. It's not his job. He's not your manager. Beanie Siegel is not signed to be your manager or your keeper. At no time. You guys had no face and you guys was eating off Beans. He was the name. You guys were nothing. Beans had albums out. Beans the one that had the rock jumping. Keep your hands up. You know how Mac come through on the club tip. He the one set off Jay-Z whole third album. What are you talking about? He was putting Philly on the map and keeping Philly on the map. Everybody else came and sped, they just went out and whizzed out. Beans came, and kept everybody in the circle and kept Philly in there. And how many artists was able to come out based off what happened with Beans? That's all I got to say on that. My thing is how y'all not recognize that. That's the bigger question. And Peedi sitting there. Peedi went ahead and talked to Spado doing the whole Major Figures thing. They were cool with the Figures. He left State Property before the beef even kicked off with them and came over there with Spado on them, talking about doing some shows and here and this. I didn't want to mix too much of all the business that went on, but he was over there and he was dissing State Property and dissing Beans, dissing all y'all. But then, all of a sudden, he gonna come right back when somebody cut him a check. And then when State Property went over there and they started all this, what's going on, you know, doing their little songs or whatever and ranting, Peedi was like, yo, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Don't do nothing. So they didn't even, when they went on the radio, they didn't even diss Peedi because Peedi had already talked to them and said he wasn't going to do that. Next thing you know, he with these dudes, yeah, woofing right along with him. And it's like, whoa, hold on, dude. I just talked to you on the phone. We know each other. We boys. I just helped you out in this situation. And now you coming at me crooked. That's how Peedi move. Now, who word you know gonna take and follow behind? Peedi Crack? A man who's known from switching from spot to spot like Cubert, just bouncing, coming back. That's Peedi. The man went from Dame, said he wanted to sign with Dame, signed with Dame, then Dame tried to give him some money and sign him another deal. He gonna give him back the chain and he gonna go with Jay. Because Jay, and he wanted his lawyer to get him up with Jay. And like, Jay want to work with you. We set up a meeting. Then he was like, man, I want to see what Jay got to say. And then you went and took the meeting with Dame and gave him back his chain. That's what you brought up. But you ain't mentioned the fact that you saw Jay deal. You tried to get Dame them to go and make another deal. So, no, it wasn't about that. It was about changing your whole thing up. And then they changed you to Peedi because, you know, your name Peedi Crack. They can't promote that. Can't put crack out there. So you got to be Peedi. And you still didn't drop an album because you was lazy and didn't work and you thought you was privileged. You and Dutch had the same thing where both of y'all definitely believed y'all were the greatest MCs ever to ever touch a microphone ever. Except for Dutch, he gonna put in the work. He gonna do what he gotta do. Peedi gonna be like, I'm not coming in today. I know I was supposed to be on the show and make the plane, but I said forget it. I'll come in another day. Call me when y'all in the studio. That's his whole thing. This clown here, he was entirely different. He came back on a whole nother lane trying to make another deal with somebody else because he was doing some little local shows with Freeway because he realized that's how artists was getting paid doing shows. Freeway was keeping his mouth shut, rapping, doing shows, making money. Do you hear anybody dissing Free? No. You ain't dissing Freeway because Freeway ain't dissing you. Free out there grinding, getting his money. He was doing his shows. That's why you don't hear nothing negative about Free out there. They talk about how he lost a battle with Cassidy, but who cares? But Free, you don't hear nothing negative about Free, do you? Have you noticed that? It's always the ones you don't really hear nothing negative about that the ones they should be promoting, but they don't. They want to promote the guys that's always whining and complaining and was holding up everything with State Property. These two clowns. Now you put them two together, and what you got? A hate fest. Yeah, they both on the show. I'm like, get out of here. They didn't even put their name in the title. Two former employees, two former rappers of State Property. It's like, I'm like, when I saw that, I said, man, this is such a gimmick. I'm like, we hate state property, but we finna sit here and talk about 15 years ago. You want to talk about 15 years ago that you didn't like and didn't get no money. What you doing now? I'm talking about 15 years ago. So that's all I got to say about that. Go Cubs. We gonna win the World Series. Y'all can roll with them too if you want to. Y'all talking about, oh, might be good in the street. He might be. I never gonna say he ain't good in the streets. I'm talking about what happened with him and Peedi during that time. Because they only gonna sugarcoat it and give you their side of the story. Didn't this man turn around and diss Jay-Z too? After Jay signed him back in? After he didn't bounce from one side to the other side and bounce back? These is why these guys didn't have projects out. They didn't have the effort. They're not artists. They didn't have that type of work ethic. They didn't have that dedication to put out the music and make it about music. That's why they in the position they in. You got this guy raving because he can put some stuff on iTunes. But he's doing his own thing because nobody's looking for him. They only putting him on these podcast shows for the simple fact that you guys, he's tied with beans and you guys on the internet want to keep hitting him. It's going to get him some attention, so maybe somebody will buy a song from him. And I hope y'all do. If y'all like his music, by all means, buy Oschino's music. Buy Oski, buy his music. Peedi Crack or Peedi, whatever he's doing now. I don't even know what he's doing now. But if he's putting music on the internet and y'all want to listen to it and buy it, knock yourselves out. I just gave y'all a rundown exactly of these two guys, and it was just shocking to me to see this guy who was just on the cypher sitting up there with Beans and everybody else on the stage. If the check is nice, and then after all the stuff he talked, he's still talking about if the check is nice, he coming back, right? Clown. But if you want to buy their music, all means knock yourselves out. I never stop a black man from eating. But I had to let that be known right away exactly who the type people you are, and make sure you knew what you was hearing, what you heard that when they was bouncing back and forth. Imagine somebody on the street in your hood doing that, bouncing from this side to that side to this side to that. You on the enemy side and you on the other guy's side. Then you back on the enemy side and you back on the enemy. Imagine that. And just look at what you just saw there. I'm out.